I'm Virginia Mahoney, and I'm here with Gary Leonard, and we're also here with Scott Hall, candidate for Councilor at Large. And we're from the Creative Network, Gary and I, and the Creative Network is an organization in the city that is trying to build and become the financial and promotional engine to support the arts in Brockton. And the Creative Network is working with Mass Creative in getting candidates to talk about the arts in Brockton and the importance of the arts to our city. The Creative Network sent out a questionnaire to all candidates, and with 5 questions pertaining to the personal connection to the arts and culture in Brockton, addressing citywide issues, arts education, programs for youth, and partnerships with the creative community. And so Scott was very kind in returning his questionnaire to us and has agreed to do a short interview, sort of expanding his responses to the questionnaire. And one of the things we like to get from candidates is asking Scott some of your personal connection to the arts and how important, the importance of the arts in growing up for you.
Well, usually when people think about the arts, they, like immediately I think of drawing and stuff. I'm really horrible at drawing things, but I mean, I can write, I can songwrite. I'm good with singing really loud. I used to practice. We didn't really do shows. Every Friday we'd meet up and jam out,
Jam sessions, I remember.
Yeah, and it was very therapeutic. Like I look forward to that every Friday. We just meet up after a long, week's worth of cubicle world. We'd just go into jamming out, rocking out, covering songs, trying to do our own songs. We didn't really have much structure though. We never really got to the next level, but it was just therapeutic where, we'd release a bunch of tension, just scream really loud, and just, have fun. And
did it keep you out of trouble, Scott?
Possibly, I mean, you gotta define trouble. It led to some trouble. It could have, some trouble, lesser trouble maybe, I don't know. But it was overall pretty good. I mean, sometimes people would come in that we didn't know and they'd start trouble. That was out of our control.
Right.
Things get a little crazy with alcohol.
But it gave you something to do on your downtime.
Yeah, I mean, every Friday it was awesome, just releasing tension. And we talked about, I tried to write about issues that I felt were pertinent, in the world. And I still have a book of all the songs I wrote. I've always wanted to release, like I could release a triple album on all the songs I wrote. And it was about 9 years ago. When it all stopped, my PA system got stolen. So that sort of put a kibosh on everything. And
they weren't experienced art and culture themselves, so They had too much downtime and they stole your...
Yeah, it wasn't a good ending.
But that creative outlet is what really kept you going as a
it's awesome. It just, I look forward to it every Friday. It was just...
And tell me, what kind of impact do you feel that local artists can give a city like Brockton?
I think, I know a lot of activists, I know a lot of musicians, not so many artists, but I do know, a fair amount of artists, and I think everybody just has to unite in Brockton and, agree upon things that are troubling to the city. And what they can do is, like politics, legislature, they're the ones that ultimately form public policy. However, artists, musicians, activists can all join together and they can bring more awareness to social issues, social wrongs, and actually formulate change based upon that.
Make a city like Brockton shine.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a lot of talented people in Brockton, and they don't really, they're so busy doing other things that they're not trying to become celebrities. They just do it as a part of their everyday life. And
In a way, the way you did,
Yeah.
you have in the past.
well, I don't know if I'm on that level, but I mean, I can throw down. I'm pretty hardcore when I start screaming. I haven't done it in a while. Like, I've only done karaoke in the past 7 years, a couple of times, and only when I'm really drunk.
That's involving yourself
Yeah.
in performance, and again, that's something, as you said, that is kind of a release for you, so.
I want to do it more, it's just, it's not really a priority. You
Do
know?
you know a lot of professional people use karaoke for public speaking?
Really? I didn't know
Improve their
that.
public speaking.
Being
yeah.
in-
Yeah, I have a serious fear of public speaking. I've only publicly spoke, like, especially in groups of like 100 or more.
Yeah.
I get nervous.
Like, started.
I get very nervous still. Like, I spoke at the State House a couple of weeks ago and I was still nervous, even though I had my back to everybody. There were hundreds of people in the room and I fumbled for words like the first 20 minutes.
You got to empty your mind.
Yeah, I told the guy, the committee, Judiciary Committee, I was like, I'm nervous, and they're like, don't worry, you know. And after that exchange, I sort of formulated my words better and forgot about all the people in the room.
Virginia, you had another question you might want to ask Scott?
Well, question number 5 deals with partnerships, public-private partnerships, and I was wondering, as counselor at large, how would you promote public-private partnerships that involve the arts and the creative community? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Public and private, it's kind of broad. I mean, what's going on now as far, you mentioned a grant that you were trying to get press for and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
enterprise didn't really cover it.
Yeah.
How does that tie into, like, I'd want to focus more on things like that, grants that otherwise go unused.
That's
What was the grant?
It's cultural council grants, and they don't go unused, but it's just a matter of trying to cast a wider net, you know.
So how does, like, I need to learn. I'm not gonna lie to everybody and say I know everything about everything. Like, I'm still learning.
And we're teachers.
Yeah, and
There you go.
I'm cool with that. The grant, what is that trying to accomplish? Like, and how much is it funding, and what's it trying to do?
Well, the cultural council, every town has their own local cultural council, and every year the state allocates a certain amount of money to every city and town in the Commonwealth that has a cultural council, and there are 327 of them, I believe. And so what happens is that the local cultural council accepts applications for projects in arts, culture, and interpretive science, and so people propose projects and then they get funded if it's considered, if it meets the guidelines and so forth. But coming back to that public-private partnership that I mentioned, you know, that's, certainly, I think some of the things that you were talking about earlier in terms of, you were mentioning talking to musicians about current issues and getting them to use current issues as their subject matter or their content. And, you know, I wonder how you could involve private organizations with artists and musicians to create partnerships and collaborations that way, because that's an interesting idea you had.
So, like, what was the grant used for last year as an example?
Oh, well, there were about 40 organizations that got bits and pieces of it. So it doesn't go to one person, or one organization, it goes to many.
So in the Brockton area, the Brockton region, like, what ended up
The city of Brockton.
what ended up being the grant last year?
Brockton Symphony, Brockton Public Library, you know, the Drama Club at Brockton High, various and sundry organizations that are in the city.
I mean, one of the things I've been trying to do is every year, like all this year, every month, I've been I've done a good job of making the Board of Trustees at the library. the meetings every month, trying to figure out what the issues are with the library. I feel as though the library is very important, especially for people that don't have access to all kinds of information, you know. There's a digital divide still, where they can go there, and it really bothers me that the library seems to be last on the priority list as far as funding every year. You know, they get
So
their
perhaps as
funding
counselor, perhaps you could see if
cut.
there's a private organization that would want to help fund, or, that's what I mean by public-private partnership.
And I'm a firm believer in the downtown area getting more consideration. It always seems like in the city, at least for the past 5 years, it's always about the west side being developed all the time, and not.
Mad because I live on the west side?
No, I'm just saying the downtown doesn't get the attention it should. I mean, there's a lot of, I went to like a historical thing with Bill Hogan. He did a historical tour of Brockton first, and he just walked about a 4-block radius of his museum.
Yes.
And he talked about, you know, the Liberty Tree, how Brockton only doesn't have any railroad crossing.
I've taken that tour about 5
Yeah.
times with him now.
You know, you
I know
could
my
give that
heart.
to
I could
her.
run the tour.
So like, I mean, Brockton doesn't have any railroad crossings, and they used it with it was all businesses that funded that. There was no government involvement. They just realized that it would be better for business if there were no railroad crossings.
And
And
that was kind of a revolutionary thing, wasn't it?
yeah, there were a lot of interesting things in Brockton. As far as like, I mean, yeah, we can partner. I know WB Mason, the owners of them, they love Brockton. And they'll, you know, they'd be interested in anything that promotes the city of Brockton. I mean, we'd probably just want to find businesses that are interested in it.
When you're elected as councilor at large, what is the stance or importance of keeping this type of education in our schools?
Education is very important. It's, you know, every day I try to spend at least an hour learning about something. Lately I've been spending a lot of time on, you know, learning the law and, you know, at the municipal level, the state level, and the federal level.
Would you keep the
But in
arts?
terms of arts education.
Yeah, arts education, would you keep programs intact and promote the programs within the school system?
Yeah, I mean, to
Find
what?
funding, find the,
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea at all. How much is being funded right now?
I really can't tell you the dollar amount, but I know it comes out of the school department's budget.
Do you know the
It's
percentage? maybe?
mandatory that they have a percentage that goes towards the education of arts.
Do you know what the percentage is?
I do not, I do not.
See, I gotta learn this stuff too. I mean,
Yeah, well, Virginia and I don't, because we're not running for office. But-
Exactly, right.
But out of curiosity, we're gonna find out, believe me. Well, Scott, I want to thank you very much for coming here this evening. It's been a pleasure talking with you, and hopefully the viewers will see exactly how this affects, not just for the city of Brockton, but how it affects you. So thank you very much.
I'd say it's very important that we invest more too in education,
That's what we'd like
arts,
to hear, right,
culture.
Virginia?
Yes.
You know, like, and take away all the, you know, I know I'm not supposed to get too off topic, but we can slash a little from the corporate welfare going on and put it into an arts budget of more.
Fantastic. Well, again, we thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for watching.
Take care.
And we are the Creative Network.